It's the 8th of August. That's a key date in Scottish history. If you like, a wedding, a peace treaty, and a bit of intrigue all rolled into one. This is the marriage of the Thistle and the Rose. Hiya, I'm Bruce Fummey. If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then at the bottom left hand side there's a button that you can click to subscribe at any time during this video. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Do you enjoy a royal wedding? Let me know in the comment section below. In 1495, James IV of Scotland would have been 22, a man in his prime. By all accounts, he'd fallen deeply and madly in love with a young woman called Margaret. Margaret Drummond, to be precise. Her family were based at Drummond Castle near Crieff, where you can currently go to visit the stunning gardens. They were used as the location of the Gardens of Versailles in the filming of Outlander. They're fantastic. James wrote love poems to Margaret. He was devoted to her, to the exclusion of all other mistresses. No small thing for a king in those days. She stayed at Stirling Castle and Linlithgow Palace. He visited Drummond Castle. He gave her dad a plum job at court. You peel those plums and I'll see to your daughter. That's frivolous. It seemed like true love. They were an item. There are some suggestions that they were secretly married and blissfully devoted to each other. How romantic. But why secretly? Let me tell you about another Margaret, another relationship, another marriage. More formal this time, with foreign policy implications. In 1496, not long after James's love affair with Margaret Drummond had begun, things had been a bit tetchy with the English crown. We don't have time. As part of making the peace, negotiations had started for James to marry the now 6-year-old Princess Margaret, the daughter of Henry VII and the sister of the future Henry VIII. She was little older than James's eldest bastard daughter. Now I know what you're thinking. Adult royal males and underage girls, it wouldn't happen these days. Anyway, it almost didn't happen then, because there was some uncertainty as to whether either side really was committed to striking this deal to marry the Scots king and the English princess. On the English side, Henry VII's advisors worried that if his male line failed, then a Scottish king would take over England. Henry said, "Supposing, which God forbid, that all my male progeny should become extinct and the kingdom devolve by law to Margaret's heirs, will England be damaged thereby? For since it ever happens that the less becomes subservient to the greater, the accession be that of Scotland to England, just as formerly happened to Normandy, which devolved upon our ancestors in the same manner, and was happily added to our kingdom by hereditary right, as a rivulet to a fountain." Aye, what if the rivulet to your leaky fountain had already married a common Scottish woman that he actually was in love with? What about that then, eh? Actually, that would be a bit problematic, wouldn't it? An already tense diplomatic situation, and James blows off Henry's daughter, Princess Margaret, for non-royal Margaret Drummond. Yeah, not good. The problem is that by 1501, this infatuation / love affair / relationship / secret married life to common Margaret didn't seem to be going away. And it might tear / apart the royal marriage and peace treaty. This is Dunblane Cathedral. Margaret Drummond and her sisters are buried here. Margaret and 2 of her sisters died together after eating the same meal. Food poisoning, or poisoning food. We can't go inside just now because of coronavirus, but if we could, we'd see a plaque which reads, "In the memory of Margaret, eldest daughter of John 1st Lord Drummond, by tradition privately married to King James IV and poisoned at Drummond Castle with her sisters Euphemia and Sibylla by some of the nobles who desired the king's marriage with the Princess Margaret of England." The Drummond ladies were laid to rest here in 1501. On the 24th of January 1502, the Treaty of Marriage between James Stewart and Margaret Tudor was agreed. Some say the 2 events were linked. I couldn't possibly comment. Now, the dowry to be paid for Margaret was paltry. £35,000 Scots payable in 3 annual instalments. That's less than the English had offered his father James III for the daughter of Edward IV, and it was less than both the French dowries that would be paid for the marriages of his son James V. Now, I'm not trying to condone the chattel status of women. I'm just observing the relative power positions of the parties to this particular negotiation. But striking the deal was just the first stage. On the 27th of June 1503, a 13-year-old English princess headed north with her entourage to meet her future husband, the 29-year-old King of Scots, and they would tie the knot that would bind the Thistle and the Rose in perpetual peace. What must it have been like for a 13-year-old girl to leave her family, her luxurious and elegant surroundings, her high-speed broadband, and head to travel the country's roads for days, from south to the north where she'd never been, then north again, across a border to a foreign land with which yours had been at war for centuries, maybe never to return. The princess processed through village, town and hamlet, with cheers along the way, being led through each by a local worthy. You can imagine the fanfare, the excitement of locals who had never before, and probably would never again, see a princess and a future queen in the flesh. She on display for a moment, and then back to monotonous roads. By the end of July, the English entourage, 2,000 strong, met a Scots welcome party of half that size at Berwick. They took refreshments together before many of the English turned back, and the princess and her large personal court continued on to Dunbar, Dalkeith, and eventually here in Edinburgh. The princess behaved impeccably. The king received her with dignity and honour and gentility. And as she entered Edinburgh, there was a choir to meet her as she traversed the town gate. The wedding ceremony, the culmination of long diplomatic work and legal negotiations, was held here at Holyrood. Then Margaret was anointed the Queen of Scots. It was lavish. The highest ranking ladies joined the princess. The pomp was huge. The ceremony was grand. Archbishops, noblemen and the highest rank in the land sat down at first to a course of 12 dishes. Oh, who's got the space for pudding? The evening dinner was held in a room decorated with the coats of arms of Scotland and England. The windows adorned with Scottish thistles and English roses. The problem with thistles and roses is that both their flowers mask prickly problems. At least the thorny subject of Margaret Drummond was gone, by accident or design. Because this wedding wasn't just a wedding. After 100 years of conflict, it also marked the confirmation of a Treaty of Perpetual Peace between Scotland and England. And Henry VII paid the first instalment of Margaret's dowry. There would never be again a conflict between the Scots and our neighbours to the south. All in all, the 8th of August 1503 was a perfect day. The Scottish Royal Garden looked rosy in the short term. The problem with long-term contracts is they have to survive long-term. What if something happened to Henry VII and he's succeeded by Margaret's brother Henry VIII? Will Henry VIII honour the financial terms of Margaret's inheritance? Is he the kind of guy to prioritise perpetual peace? That's a story for another day. But I hope you enjoyed today's one. If you did, do the likey sharey thing, and there's a link to see how you can support or become a member. In the meantime, I'm in Dochas Gumbil Am Ally. Cheery and Drasna.